Chapter 6 Skeeter. On a hot September morning, I wake up in my childhood bed, slip on the Huarache shoes my brother Carlton brought me back from Mexico. A man's pair, since evidently Mexican girls' feet don't grow to size 9.5. Mother hates them and says they're trashy looking. Over my nightgown, I put on one of my daddy's old button down shirts and slip out the front door. Mother is on the back porch with Pascagoula and Jameso while they shuck oysters. "You cannot leave a black man and woman together unchaperoned," Mother had whispered to me a long time ago. "It's not their fault, they just can't help it." I head down the steps to see if my mail order copy of The Catcher in the Rye is in the box. I always order the banned books from a black market dealer in California, figuring that if the state of Mississippi banned them, they must be good. By the time I reach the end of the drive, my huaraches and my ankles are covered with a fine yellow dust. On either side of me, the cotton fields are a glaring green, fat with bolls. Daddy lost the back fields to a rain last month, but the majority bloomed unharmed. The leaves are just starting to spot brown with defoliant, and I can still smell the sour chemical in the air. There are no cars on the county road. I open the mailbox. And there, underneath Mother's Ladies' Home Journal, is a letter addressed to Miss Eugenia Phelan. The red raised font in the corner says Harper and Row Publishers. I tear it open right there in the lane, in nothing but my long nightgown and Daddy's old Brooks Brothers shirt. September 4th, 1962. Dear Miss Phelan, I'm responding personally to your resume because I found it admirable that a young lady with absolutely no work experience would apply for an editing job at a publisher as prestigious as ours. A minimum of 5 years in the business is mandatory for such a job. You'd know this if you'd done any amount of research on the business. Having once been an ambitious young lady myself, however, I've decided to offer you some advice. Go to your local newspaper and get an entry-level job. You included in your letter that you immensely enjoy writing. When you're not making mimeographs or fixing your boss's coffee, look around, investigate, and write. Don't waste your time on the obvious things. Write about what disturbs you, particularly if it bothers no one else. Yours sincerely, Elaine Stein, Senior Editor, Adult Book Division. Below the picket type is a handwritten note in a choppy blue scrawl. P.S. If you are truly serious, I'd be willing to look over your best ideas and give my opinion. I offer this for no better reason, Miss Phelan, than someone once did it for me. A truck full of cotton rumbles by on the county road. The black man in the passenger side leans out and stares at me. I've forgotten that I'm a white girl in a thin nightgown. I've just received correspondence, maybe even encouragement, from New York City, and I say the name aloud. Elaine Stein. I've never met a Jewish person before. I race back up the lane, trying to keep the letter from flapping in my hand. I don't want it wrinkled. I dash up the stairs with Mother hollering to take off those taxi Mexican man shoes, and to get to work writing down every goddamn thing that bothers me in life, particularly those that don't seem to faze anyone else here. Elaine Stein's words are running hot silver through my veins, and I type as fast as I can. Turns out, it's a spectacularly long list. By the next day, I'm ready to mail my first letter to Elaine Stein, listing the ideas that I thought worthy journalism material. The prevalence of illiteracy in Mississippi, the high number of drunk driving accidents in our county, the limited job opportunities for women. It's not until after I mail the letter that I realize I probably chose those ideas she would think impressive, rather than the ones that I was really interested in. I take a deep breath and pull open the heavy glass door. A feminine little bell tinkles hello. A not-so-feminine receptionist watches me. She's enormous and looks uncomfortable in the small wooden chair. "Welcome to the Jackson Journal. Can I help you?" I'd made an appointment the day before yesterday, hardly an hour after I'd received Elaine Stein's letter. I asked for an interview with a position that they might have. I was surprised that they'd said they'd see me so soon. "I'm here to see Mr. Golden, please." The receptionist waddles to the back in her tented dress. I try and calm my shaking hands. I peek through the open door to a small, wood-paneled room in the back. Inside, 4 men in suits bang away on typewriters and scratch with pencils. They are bent over, haggard, 3 with just a horseshoe of hair left. The room is gazy with cigarette smoke. The receptionist reappears, thumbs me to follow her, cigarette dangling in her hand. "Come on back." Despite my nerves, all I can think of is the old college rule: a Chi Omega never walks with a cigarette. I follow her through the desks of staring men, the haze of smoke, and to an interior office. "Close that thing back," Mr. Golden hollers as soon as I've opened the door and stepped in. "Don't let all that damn smoke in here." Mr. Golden stands up behind his desk. He's about 6 inches shorter than me, trim, younger than my parents. He has long teeth and a sneer, the greased black hair of a mean man. "Didn't you hear?" he said. "They announced last week cigarettes will kill ya." I hadn't heard that. I can only hope it hadn't been on the front of his newspaper. "Hell, I know people 100 years old that look younger than those idiots out there." He sits back down. "But I keep standing because there are no other chairs in this room." "All right, let's see what you got." I hand him my resume and sample articles I'd written in school. I grew up with the journal sitting on our kitchen table, open to the farm report or the local sports page. I rarely had time to read it myself. Mr. Golden doesn't just look at my papers, he edits them with a red pencil. "Murrah High editor, 3 years. Rebel Rouser editor, 2 years. Chi Omega editor, 3 years. Double major, English and journalism. Graduated number 4. Damn, girl," he mutters. "Didn't you have any fun?" I clear my throat. "Is that important?" He looks up at me. "You're peculiarly tall, but I think a pretty girl like you'd be dating the whole goddamn basketball team." I stare at him, not quite sure if he's making fun of me or paying me a compliment. "I assume you know how to clean?" He looks back to my articles, strikes them with violent red marks. My face flushes hot and quick. "Clean? I'm not here to clean. I'm here to write." Cigarette smoke is bleeding under the door. It's like the entire place is on fire. I feel so stupid that I thought I could just walk in and get a job as a journalist. He sighs heavily, hands me a thick folder of papers. "I guess you'll do. Miss Myrna's gone shithouse crazy on us. Drunk hairspray or something. Read the articles, write the answers like she does. Nobody'll know the damn difference." I. What? And I take the folder because I don't know what else to do. I have no idea who this Miss Myrna is. So I ask the only safe question I can think of. "How much did you say it pays?" He gives me a surprisingly appreciative look, from my flat shoes to my flat hairstyle. Some dormant instinct tells me to smile, run my hand through my hair. I feel ridiculous, but I do it. $8 every Monday." I nod, trying to figure out how to ask him what the job is without giving myself away. He leans forward. "You do know who Miss Myrna is, don't you?" "Of course. We girls read her all the time," I say, and again, we stare at each other long enough for a distant telephone to ring 3 times. "What then? Eight's not enough? Jesus, woman, go clean your husband's toilet for free." I bite my lip. But then, before I can utter anything, he rolls his eyes. "All right, 10. Copies due on Thursdays, and if I don't like your style, I'm not printing it or paying you squat." I take the folder, thank him more than I probably should. He ignores me and picks up his phone and makes a call before I'm even out the door. When I get to my car, I sink down into the soft Cadillac leather. I sit there smiling, reading the pages in the folder. I just got a job. I come home standing up straighter than I have since I was 12, before my growth spurt. I am buzzing with pride. Even though every cell in my brain says do not, somehow I cannot resist telling Mother. I rush into the relaxing room and tell her everything about how I've gotten the job writing Miss Myrna, the weekly cleaning advice column. Oh, the irony of it. She lets out a sigh that means life is hardly worth living under such conditions. Pascagoula freshens her iced tea. "At least it's a start," I say. "A start at what? Giving advice on how to keep up a home when—" She sighs again, long and slow, like a deflating tire. I look away, wondering if everyone in town will be thinking the same thing. Already, the joy is fleeting. "Eugenia, you don't even know how to polish silver, much less advise on how to keep a house clean." I hug the folder to my chest. She's right. I won't know how to answer any of the questions. Still, I thought she'd at least be proud of me. "And you'll never meet anybody sitting at that typewriter, Eugenia. Have some sense." Anger works its way up my arms. I stand up straight again. "You think I want to live here? With you?" I laugh in a way that I'm hoping will hurt her. I see the quick pain in her eyes. She presses her lips together at the sting. Still, I have no desire to take back my words because finally, Finally, I have said something she's listening to. I stand there refusing to leave. I want to hear what she'll say to this. I want to hear her say she's sorry. I need to ask you something, Eugenia. She twists her handkerchief and grimaces. I read the other day about how some girls get unbalanced and start thinking these unnatural thoughts. I have no idea what she's talking about. I look at the ceiling fan. Someone said it going too fast. Clackety, clackety, clackety. Are you, do you find men attractive? Are you having unnatural thoughts about, she shuts her eyes tight, girls or women? I stare at her, wishing the ceiling fan would fly from its post and crash down on us both. Because it said in this article there's a cure, a special root tea. Mother, I say, shutting my eyes tight, I want to be with girls as much as you'd like to be with Jameso. I head for the door, but I glance behind me. I mean, unless of course you do. Mother straightens, gasps. I pound up the stairs. The next day I stack the Miss Myrna letters in a neat pile. I have $35 in my purse, the monthly allowance Mother still gives me. I go downstairs wearing a thick Christian smile. Living at home, whenever I want to leave Longleaf, I have to ask Mother if I can borrow her car, which means she'll ask where I'm going, which means I have to lie to her on a daily basis, which in itself is enjoyable, but it's a little degrading at the same time. I'm going down to the church, see if they need any help getting ready for Sunday school. Oh, darling, that's just wonderful. Take your time with the car. I decided last night what I needed is a professional to help me with the column. My first idea was to ask Pascagoula, but I hardly know her. Plus, I couldn't stand the thought of Mother nosing around, criticizing me all over again. Hilly's maid, Yilmay, is so shy, I doubt she'd want to help me. The only other maid I see often enough is Elizabeth's maid, Abeline. Abeline reminds me of Constantine in a way. Plus, she's older and seems to have plenty of experience. On my way to Elizabeth's, I go by the Ben Franklin store and buy a clipboard, a box of number 2 pencils, a blue cloth notebook. My first column is due tomorrow on Mr. Golden's desk by 2 o'clock. Skeeter, come on in. Elizabeth opens her own front door, and I fear that Abeline might not be working today. She has on a blue bathrobe and jumbo-sized rollers, making her head look huge, her body even more waif-like than it is. Elizabeth generally has rollers in all day, can never get her hair thin or full enough. Sorry I'm such a mess. May Mobley kept me up half the night, and now I don't even know where Abeline's gotten off to. I step inside the tiny foyer. It's a low-ceilinged house with small rooms. Everything has a second-hand look. The faded blue floral curtains, the crooked cover on the couch. I hear Rowley's new accounting business isn't doing well. Maybe up in New York or somewhere it's a good thing, but in Jackson, Mississippi, people just don't care to do business with a rude, condescending asshole. Haley's car is out front, but she's nowhere to be seen. Elizabeth sits at the sewing machine she has on the dining room table. I'm almost done, she says. Let me just hem this last seam. Elizabeth stands, holds up the green church dress with a round white collar. Now, be honest, she whispers with eyes that are pleading for me to be anything but. Does it look homemade? The hem on the one side hangs longer than on the other. It's wrinkled and a cuff is already fraying. 100% store-bought, straight from Maison Blanche. I say because that's Elizabeth's dream store. It's 5 stories of expensive clothes on Canal Street in New Orleans. Clothes that could never be found in Jackson. Elizabeth gives me a grateful smile. May Mobley sleepin'? I ask. Finally. Elizabeth fiddles with a clump of hair that's slipped out of her roller, grimaces at its obstinacy. Sometimes her voice takes on a hard edge when she talks about her little girl. The door to the guest bathroom in the hall opens and Hilly comes out talking. So much better. Everybody has their own place to go now. Elizabeth fiddles with the machine needle, seems worried by it. You tell Rowley I said you are welcome, Hilly adds, and it hits me then what is being said. Abeline has her own bathroom in the garage now. Hilly smiles at me and I realize that she's about to bring up the initiative. How's your mama? I ask, even though I know this is her least favorite subject. She get settled in the home all right? I guess. Hilly pulls on her red sweater down over her pudgy roll in her waist. She has on red and green plaid pants that seem to magnify her bottom, making it rounder and more forceful than ever. Of course, she doesn't appreciate a thing I do. I had to fire that maid for her. Caught her trying to steal the damn silver right under my nose. Hilly narrows her eyes a bit. Y'all haven't heard, by the way, if that Minnie Jackson's working somewhere. Have you? We shake our heads no. I doubt she'll find work in this town again, Elizabeth says. Hilly nods, mulling this over. I take a deep breath, anxious to tell them my news. I just got a job at the Jackson Journal, I say. There is a quiet in the room. Suddenly Elizabeth squeals. Hilly smiles at me with such pride, I blush and shrug, like it's not that big of a deal. They'd be a fool not to hire you, Skeeter Phelan, Hilly says and raises her iced tea as a toast. So, have y'all actually read Miss Myrna? I ask. Well, no, Hilly says, but I bet the poor white trash girls in South Jackson read it like it's the King James. Elizabeth nods. All those poor girls without help. I bet they do. Would you mind if I talk to Abeline? I ask Elizabeth, to help me answer some of the letters. Elizabeth is still for a second. Abeline? My Abeline? Well, I sure don't know the answers to these questions. I mean, as long as it doesn't interfere with her work. I pause, surprised by this attitude, but then I remind myself that Elizabeth is paying her, after all. And not today with May Mobley about to get up, or else I'll have to look after her myself. Okay, maybe I'll come by tomorrow morning then. I count the hours on my hand. If I finish talking to Abeline by mid-morning, I'll have time to rush home to type it up, then get it back to town by 2. Elizabeth frowns down at her spool of green thread. And only for a few minutes. Tomorrow's silver polishing day. It won't be long, I promise, I say. Elizabeth is just starting to sound just like my mother. The next morning at 10, Elizabeth opens her door, nods at me like a schoolteacher. All right, go on in. And not too long now. May Mobley will be waking up any time. I walk into the kitchen, my notebook and papers under my arm. Abeline smiles at me from the sink, her gold tooth shining. She's a little plump in the middle, but it's a friendly softness. And she's much shorter than me, because who isn't? Her skin is dark brown and shiny against her starchy white uniform. Her eyebrows are gray, even though her hair is black. Hey, Miss Skeeter, Miss Leafold still at the machine? Yes. It's strange, after all these months home, to hear Elizabeth being called Miss Leafold, and not Miss Elizabeth, or even by her maiden name, Miss Fredericks. May I? I point to the refrigerator, but before I can help myself, Abeline's opened it for me. What you want, a Coca-Cola? I nod and she pops the cap off with the opener mounted on the counter, pours it into a glass. Abeline, I take a deep breath. I was wondering if I could get your help on something. I tell her about the column then, grateful when she nods that she knows who Miss Myrna is. So maybe I could read you some of the letters and you could help me with the answers. After a while, maybe I'll catch on and... I stop. There's no way I'll ever be able to answer cleaning questions myself. Honestly, I have no intention of learning how to clean. It sounds unfair, doesn't it? Me taking your answers and acting like they're mine. Or Myrna's, I mean. I sigh. Abeline shakes her head. I don't mind that. I just ain't so sure Miss Leafo gonna approve. She said it was all right. During my regular hours working? I nod, remembering the propriety in Elizabeth's voice. All right then, Abeline shrugs. She looks up at the clock above the sink. I probably have to stop when May Mobley gets up. Should we sit? I point to the kitchen table. Abeline glances at the swinging door. You go ahead. I'm fine standing. I spent last night reading every Miss Myrna article from the previous 5 years, but I haven't had time to sort through the unanswered letters yet. I straighten my clipboard and pencil in hand. Here's a letter from Rankin County. Dear Miss Myrna, I read. How do I remove the rings from my fat, slovenly husband's shirt collar when he is such a pig and sweats like one too? Wonderful. A column on cleaning and relationships. 2 things I know absolutely nothing about. Which one she'd want to get rid of? Abeline asks. The rings or the husband? I stare at the page. I wouldn't know how to instruct her to do either one. Tell her a vinegar and pine salt soak, and then to let it sit in the sun for a little while. I write it quickly on my pad. Sit in the sun for how long? About an hour. Let it dry. I pull out the next letter, and just as quickly, she answers it. After 4 or 5, I exhale, relieved. Thank you, Aibileen. You have no idea how much this helps. Ain't no trouble, as long as Miss Lethal don't need me. I gather up my papers and take a last sip of my Coke, letting myself relax for 5 seconds before I have to go and write the article. Aibileen picks through a sack of green fiddleheads. The room is quiet except for the radio playing softly. Preacher Green again. How did you know Constantine? Were you related? We in the same church circle. Aibileen shifts her feet in front of the sink. I feel what has become a familiar sting. She didn't even leave an address. I can't believe she would quit like that. Aibileen keeps her eyes down. She seems to be studying the fiddleheads very carefully. No, I'm right sure she was let go. No, Mama said she quit, back in April. Went to live up in Chicago with her people. Aibileen picks up another fiddlehead, starts washing its long stem, the curly green ends. No, ma'am, she says after a pause. It takes me a few seconds to realize what we're talking about here. Aibileen, I say, trying to catch her eye. You really think Constantine was fired? But Aibileen's face has gone blank as the blue sky. I must be misremembering, she says, and I can tell she thinks she said too much to a white woman. We hear May Mobley calling out, and Aibileen excuses herself and heads through the swinging door. A few seconds pass before I have the sense to go home. When I walk in the house 10 minutes later, Mother is reading at the dining room table. Mother, I say, clutching my notebook to my chest, did you fire Constantine? Did I what? Mother asks, but I know she heard me because she said it the DAR newsletter down. It takes a hard question for her to pull her eyes off that riveting material. Eugenia, I told you, her sister was sick, so she went up to Chicago to live with her people, she says. Why? Who told you different? I would never in a million years tell her it was Aibileen. I heard it today, in town. Who would talk about such a thing? Mother narrows her eyes behind her reading glasses. It must have been one of the other maids. What did you do to her, Mother? Mother licks her lips and gives me a good, long look over her bifocals. You wouldn't understand, Eugenia, not until you've hired help of your own. You fired her? For what? It doesn't matter. It's behind me now, and I just won't think about it for another minute. Mother, she raised me. You tell me right now what happened. I'm disgusted by the squeakiness of my voice, the childish sound of my demands. Mother raises her eyebrows at my tone, takes her glasses off. It was nothing but a colored thing, and that's all I'm saying. And she puts her glasses back on and lifts her DAR sheet to her eyes. I'm shaking, I'm so mad. I pound my way up the stairs. I sit at my typewriter, stunned that my mother could cast off someone who had done her the biggest favor of her life, raise her children, teach me kindness, self-respect. I stare across the room at the rose wallpaper, the eyelet curtains, the yellowing photographs so familiar they're nearly contemptible. Constantine worked for our family for 29 years. For the next week, Daddy rises before dawn. I wake to the truck motors, the noise of the cotton pickers, the haulers to hurry. The fields are brown and crisp with dead cotton stalks, defoliated so the machines can get to the bolls. Cotton harvest is here. Daddy doesn't even stop for church during harvest time, but on Sunday night I catch him in the dusky hall between his supper and sleep. Daddy, I ask, will you tell me what happened to Constantine? He is so dog-tired he sighs before he answers. How could Mother fire her, Daddy? What? Darlin', Constantine quit. You know your mother would never fire her. He looks disappointed in me for asking such a thing. Do you know where she went, or have her address? He shakes his head no. Ask your mama, she'll know. He pats my shoulder. People move on, Skeeter, but I do wish she'd stayed down here with us. He wanders down the hall to bed. He is too honest a man to hide things, so I know he doesn't have any more facts about it than I do. That week, and every week, sometimes twice, I stop by Elizabeth's to talk to Aibileen. Each time, Elizabeth looks a little warier. The longer I stay in the kitchen, the more chores Elizabeth comes up with until I can leave. The doorknobs need polishing. The top of the refrigerator needs dusting. May Mobley's fingernails could use a trim. Aibileen is no more than cordial with me. nervous, stands at the kitchen sink and never stops working. It's not long before I'm ahead a copy, and Mr. Golden seems pleased with the column, the first two of which only took me about 20 minutes to write. And every week I ask Aibileen about Constantine. Can she get her address for me? Can she tell me anything about why she got fired? Was there a big to do? Because I just can't imagine Constantine saying, "Yes, ma'am," and walking out the back door. Mama'd get cross with her about a tarnished spoon, and Constantine would serve her toast burned up for a week. I can only imagine how a firing would have gone. It hardly matters, though, because all Aibileen will do is shrug at me and say she don't know nothing. One afternoon, after asking Aibileen how to get out tough tub rings, never having scrubbed a bathtub in my life, I come home. I walk past the relaxing room, the television set is on, and I glance at it. Pascagoula is standing about 5 inches away from the screen. I hear the words "Ole Miss," and on the fuzzy screen I see white men in dark suits crowding the camera, sweat running off of their bald heads. I come closer and see that there's a black man about my age standing in the middle of the white men, an army of men behind him. The picture pans back and there is an old administration building. Governor Ross Barnett stands with his arms crossed, looking at the tall black man in the eye. Next to the governor is our Senator Whitworth, whose son Hilly has been trying to set me up with on that blind date. I watch the television, riveted. Yet I am neither thrilled nor disappointed by the news that they might let a black man into Old Miss. I'm just surprised. Pascagoula, though, was breathing so loud I can hear her. She stands stock still, not aware that I'm behind her. Roger Sticker, our local reporter, is nervous, smiling, talking fast. President Kennedy has ordered the governor to step aside for James Meredith. I repeat, the president of the United. Eugenia, Pascagoula, turn that set off this minute. Pascagoula jerks around to see me and Mother. She rushes out of the room, her eyes to the floor. Now I won't have it, Eugenia, Mother whispers. I won't have you encouraging them like that. Encouraging? It's nationwide news, Mama. Mother sniffs. It's not appropriate for the two of you to watch together. And she flips the channel and stops on an afternoon rerun of Lawrence Welk. Look, isn't this so much nicer? On a hot Saturday in late September, the cotton fields chopped and empty. Daddy carries a new RCA color television it's set into the house. He moves the black and white one to the kitchen. Smiling and proud, he plugs the new TV into the wall of the relaxing room. The Ole Miss versus LSU football game blares through the house for the rest of the afternoon. Mama, of course, is glued to the color picture, oohing and awing at the vibrant reds and blues of the team. She and Daddy live by Rebel football. She dressed up in wool pants despite the sweltering heat and has Daddy's old Kappa Alpha blanket draped on her chair. No one mentions James Meredith, the black student they let in. I take the Cadillac and head into town. Mother finds it inexplicable that I don't want to watch my alma mater throw a ball around. But Elizabeth and her family are at Hilly's watching the game, so Abileen's working in the house alone. I'm hoping it'll be a little easier on Aibileen if Elizabeth's not there. The truth is, I'm hoping she'll tell me something, anything about Constantine. Aibileen lets me in, and I follow her back into the kitchen. She seems only the smallest bit more relaxed in Elizabeth's empty house. She eyes the kitchen table like she wants to sit today, but when I ask her, she answers, "No, I'm fine. You go ahead." She makes a tomato from a pan and a sink, and she starts to peel it with a knife. So I lean against the counter and I present the latest conundrum: how to keep the dogs from getting into your trash cans outside. Because your lazy husband forgets to put it out on the right pickup day, and since he drinks all that damn beer. Just pour some pneumonia in the garbage. Dogs won't so much as wink at them cans. So I jot it down, amending it to pneumonia, and picking up the next letter. When I look up, Abileen's kind of smiling at me. I don't mean nothing disrespectful, Miss Skeeter, but ain't it kind of strange you being the new Miss Myrna when you don't know nothing about housekeeping? She didn't say it the way Mother did a month ago. I find myself then laughing instead, and I tell her what I've told no one else about the phone calls and the resume I'd sent to Harper and Row, that I want to be a writer, the advice that I've received from Elaine Stein. It's actually nice to tell somebody. Aibileen nods, turns her knife around another soft red tomato. My boy Treelor, he liked to write. I didn't know you had a son. He's dead. 2 years now. Oh, I'm so sorry, I say, and for a moment it's just Preacher Green in the room, the soft pad of tomato skin against the sink. He made straight A's on every English test he ever take. Then later, when he grown, he pick himself up a typewriter and start working on an idea. The pin-tucked shoulders of her uniform slump down. Says he was going to write himself a book. What kind of idea? I ask. I mean, if you don't mind telling. Abeline says nothing for a while, keeps peeling tomatoes around and around. He read this book called Invisible Man. When he done, he said that he gonna write down what it's like to be a black man working for the white man in Mississippi. I look away, knowing that this is where my mother would stop the conversation. This is where she would smile and change the subject to the price of silver polish or white rice. I read Invisible Man too, after he did, Abeline says. I liked it all right. I nod, even though I've never read it. I hadn't thought of Abeline as a reader before. He wrote almost 50 pages, she says. I let his girl Frances keep a hold of him. Abeline stops peeling. I see her throat move when she swallows. Please, don't tell nobody that, she says, softer now. Him wanting to write about his white boss. She bites her lip, and it strikes me then that she's still afraid for him. Even though he's dead, the instinct to be afraid for her son is still there. It's fine that you told me, Abeline. I think it was a brave idea. Abeline holds my gaze for a moment. Then she picks up another tomato and sets the knife against the skin. I watch and wait for the red juice to spill, but Abeline stops before she cuts, glances at the kitchen door. I don't think it's fair, you not knowing what happened to Constantine. I'm sorry. I don't feel right talking to you about it. I stay quiet, not sure what spurred this, not wanting to ruin it. I'll tell you though, it was something to do with her daughter coming to see your mama. Daughter? Constantine never told me she had a daughter. I knew Constantine 23 years. Why would she keep this from me? It was hard for her. The baby came out real pale. I hold still, remembering what Constantine had told me years ago. You mean light? Like white? Abeline nods, keeping at her task in the sink. Had to send her away. Up north, I think. Constantine's father was white, I say. Oh, Abeline, you don't think. An ugly thought is running through my head. I'm too shocked to finish the sentence. Abeline shakes her head. No, 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 ma'am. Not that. Constantine's man, Connor, he was black. But since Constantine had her daddy's blood in her, her baby came out a high yellow. It happens. I feel ashamed for having thought the worst. Still, I don't understand. Why didn't Constantine ever tell me? I ask, not really expecting an answer. Why would she send her away? Abeline nods to herself like she understands, but I don't. That was the worst off I ever seen her. Constantine must have said 1,000 times that she couldn't wait for the day when she got her back. You said the daughter, she had something to do with Constantine getting fired? What happened? At this, Abeline's face goes blank. The curtain is drawn. She nods toward the Miss Myrna letters, making it clear that that's all she's willing to say. At least, right now. That afternoon, I stop by Hilly's football party. The street is lined with station wagons and long Buicks. I force myself through the door, knowing I'll be the only single one there. Inside, the living room is full of couples on the sofa, the chaises, the arms of the chairs. Wives sit straight with their legs crossed, while husbands lean forward. All eyes are on the wooden television set. I stand in the back, exchange a few smiles, some silent hellos. Except for the announcer, the room is quiet. Whoa! They all yell, and hands fly in the air. Women that stand and clap. I chew at my cuticle. That's it, Rebels! You show those tigers! Go Rebels! Cheers Mary Frances Truly, jumping up and down in her matching sweater set. I look at my nail where my cuticle hangs off, stinging in pink. The room is thick with bourbon smell and red wool and diamond rings. I wonder if the girls really care about football, or if they just act this way to impress their husbands. In my 4 months of being in the league, I've never once had a girl ask me, how about them Rebs? I chat my way through some couples until I make it to the kitchen. Hilly's tall, thin maid, Yul May, is folding dough around tiny sausages. Another black girl, younger, washes dishes at the sink. Hilly waves me over where she's talking to Dina Duran. The best darn petite four I've ever tasted. Dina, you might be the most talented cook in the league. Hilly stuffs the rest of the cake in her mouth, nodding and mm-mming. Why, thank you, Hilly. They're hard, but I think they're worth it. Dina is beaming, and she looks like she might cry under Hilly's adoration. So you'll do it? Oh, I'm so glad. The bake sale committee really needs somebody like you. And how many did you need? 500 by tomorrow afternoon. Dina's smile freezes. Okay, I guess I can work through the night. Oh, Skeeter, you made it, Hilly says, and Dina wanders through the kitchen. I can't stay long, I say, probably too quickly. Well, I found out, Hilly smirks. He's definitely coming this time, 3 weeks from today. I watch Yilmay's long fingers pinch the dough off a knife, and I sigh, knowing right away who she means. I don't know, Hilly. You've tried so many times. Maybe it's a sign. Last month, when he'd canceled the day before the date, I had actually allowed myself a little bit of excitement. I don't really feel like going through that again. What? Don't you dare say that! Hilly, I say through clenched teeth, because it's time I finally just said it. You know, I won't be his type. Look at me, she says, and I do as I'm told, because that's what we do around Hilly. Hilly, you can't make me go. It's your time, Skeeter. She reaches over and squeezes my hand, presses her thumb and fingers down as hard as Constantine ever did. It is your turn. And damn it, I'm not going to let you miss this just because your mother convinced you you're not good enough for someone like him. I'm stung by her bitter true words, and yet I am awed by my friend, by her tenacity for me. Hilly and I have always been uncompromisingly honest with each other, even about the little things. With other people, Hilly hands out lies like Presbyterians hand out guilt. But it's our own silent agreement, this strict honesty, perhaps the one thing that has kept us friends. Elizabeth comes in the kitchen carrying an empty plate. She smiles and then stops, and we all three look at each other. What? Elizabeth says. I can tell she thinks that we've all been talking about her. 3 weeks then, Hilly asks me. You coming? Oh, yes, you are. You most certainly are going, Elizabeth says. I look in their smiling faces, at their hope for me. It's not like mother's meddling, but a clean hope, without strings or hurt. I hate that my friends have discussed this, my one night's fate, behind my back. I hate it, and yet I love it too. I head back to the country before the game is over. Out the open window of the Cadillac, the fields look chopped and burned. Daddy finished the last harvest weeks ago, but his side of the road is still snowy with cotton stuck in the grass. Whiffs of it blow and float through the air. I check the mailbox from the driver's seat. Inside is the farmer's almanac and a single letter. It's from Harper and Row. I turn into the drive, throw the gear into park. The letter is handwritten on a small square notepaper. Miss Phelan, you certainly may hone your writing skills on such flat, passionless subjects as drunk driving and illiteracy. I'd hoped, however, you'd choose topics that actually have some punch to them. Keep looking. If you find something original, only then may you write me again. I slip past Mother in the dining room, invisible Pascagoula dusting pictures in the hall, up my steep, vicious stairs. My face burns. I fight tears over Mrs. Stein's letter, telling myself to pull it together. The worst part is, I don't have any bitter ideas. I bury myself in the next housekeeping article and then the League newsletter. For the second week in a row, I leave out Hilly's bathroom initiative. An hour later, I find myself staring off at the window. My copy of Let Us Now Praise Famous Men sits on the window ledge. I walk over and pick it up, afraid the light will fade the paper jacket. The black and white photo of the humble, impoverished family on the cover. The book is warm and heavy from the sun. I wonder if I'll ever write anything worth anything at all. I turn when I hear Pascagoula's knock on my door. That's when the idea comes to me. No, I couldn't. That would be crossing the line. But the idea just won't go away.